Elena Vasquez walked through the long hallways of Nexus Prime. The metal walls around her shined with a strange blue light. Alien creatures moved past her, their eyes following her every step. Some had wings that looked like glass. Others had thick shells covering their bodies like armor. A few floated in the air, glowing with soft light. She had been Earth's ambassador to the Galaxy Council for 30 years. In all that time, she had never seen the aliens look at her with such hatred. Today was different. Today, something was about to change. The message had come 3 hours ago. It was short and cold. Human representative will appear before the full council immediately. Final judgment awaits. Elena knew what this meant. She had been waiting for this day for a very long time. Her black uniform was simple compared to the colorful clothes the aliens wore. She carried no weapons, no guards, no fancy technology. Just a small communication device hidden in her sleeve. To everyone watching, she looked like what they thought humans were. Weak, primitive, alone. They had no idea how wrong they were. The council chamber was huge. Elena had been there many times before, but it still amazed her. The room was shaped like a giant bowl. Hundreds of different alien species sat in rows that went up and up until they disappeared in the shadows above. Each species had their own section. Each section had its own strange smells, sounds, and lights. In the center of the room was a small circle marked on the floor. This was where those being judged had to stand. Helena had seen many beings stand there over the years. Most of them begged for mercy. Some cried. A few tried to run. Elena walked to the circle with steady steps. She stood straight and looked around the room without fear. The aliens watching her whispered to each other in languages she had learned to understand. They were surprised by her calm behavior. Chancellor Vexthal stepped forward. He was tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that changed colors when he was angry. Right now his skin was bright red. He was the leader of the Hegemony Coalition, the most powerful group in the Galaxy Council. Human, he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. You stand accused of crimes against galactic peace. Elena said nothing. She just stood there with a small smile on her face. Vexthal raised one of his 4 hands. Suddenly, huge pictures appeared in the air above the chamber. The first picture showed human, ships near Mars. The second showed weapons being built in space stations around Earth. The third showed humans living on planets outside their home system. Unauthorized expansion, Vexthal announced. Your species was told to stay in your home system. You have broken this law. More pictures appeared. These showed human factories making metal weapons that shot solid bullets instead of energy beams. Development of primitive kinetic weapons, the Chancellor continued. The Council banned these dangerous tools 50 years ago, yet humans continue to build them. The last pictures showed human soldiers training, human ships moving in formation, human bases hidden in asteroid fields. Refusal to submit to Council authority, Vexthal said, his voice getting louder. Humans think they are above galactic law. They think they can do whatever they want. Elena listened to every word. She had heard these accusations before in private meetings. But now they were being said in front of all 847 species that made up the Galaxy Council. This was not a trial. This was a show. The evidence is clear, Vexthal declared. Humans are a rogue species. They threaten the peace and order that the Galaxy Council has maintained for 10,000 years. An alien that looked like a giant insect stood up in the Krasnok section. The humans are dangerous, it clicked in its strange voice. They refuse to change their biology like other species. They refuse to give up their violent ways. Another alien, this one glowing with soft light, floated higher in the air. Humans carry weapons instead of tools of peace, it sang. They expand without permission. They take what they want. More and more aliens stood to speak against humanity. Elena had expected this. She had watched the Galaxy Council work for 30 years. She knew how they made their decisions. They had already decided what would happen before this meeting even started. Vexthal waited until all the aliens had finished speaking. Then he looked down at Elena with his large, dark eyes. Human representative, he said, do you have anything to say before the council passes judgment? Elena looked up at him. Then she looked around the chamber at all the aliens staring down at her. Some looked angry. Some looked afraid. Some looked excited like they were watching entertainment. I have nothing to say in defense, Elena said clearly. Her voice carried through the chamber without any electronic help. Earth has done exactly what you say we have done, the aliens murmured in surprise. They had expected her to deny the accusations or beg for mercy. Then you admit your crimes? Vexthul asked. I admit the facts, Elena replied. But I do not admit they are crimes. Vexthul's skin turned a deeper shade of red. The council will now vote on the fate of humanity, he announced. Elena watched as lights appeared next to each species section. Green meant peace. Red meant war. Blue meant more discussion was needed. The first light turned red. Then another. Then another. Within minutes, hundreds of red lights filled the chamber. A few blue lights appeared, but no green ones at all. The vote is complete, Vexthul declared. 847 species have spoken. 0 votes for peace, 0 votes for delay, 847 votes for war. The Chancellor spread all 4 of his arms wide. By the authority of the Galaxy Council, humanity is declared an enemy of galactic civilization. All Council species are hereby authorized and commanded to use any means necessary to eliminate the human threat. The chamber erupted in sounds. Aliens cheered, roared, sang, and clicked their approval. After 50 years of dealing with stubborn humans, they would finally be rid of this troublesome species. Elena stood in the center of it all, completely calm. She waited until the noise died down a little. Then she spoke. Is that your final decision? She asked. Vexthul looked confused. Of course it is final. The council has spoken, Elena nodded slowly. Then for the first time since entering the chamber, her expression changed. A small smile appeared on her face. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting a very long time for something to happen. Good, she said. It's finally time. Those 4 words sent a chill through the chamber. The alien voices died away. Something in Elena's tone made them all feel suddenly uneasy. Vexthul stared down at her. Time for what, human? Elena's smile grew wider. She reached into her sleeve and pulled out her small communication device. She pressed a single button. Time for you to learn what humans really are, she said. Far away, on a planet called Earth, military officers received Elena's signal. In secret bases hidden throughout the galaxy, human soldiers who had been waiting for years finally got their orders. On ships disguised as cargo vessels, weapon systems came online. Elena looked up at the hundreds of alien faces staring down at her. You just declared war on humanity, she said. Do you know what that means? It means your extinction, Vexthul snarled. Elena shook her head. No, Chancellor. It means yours. She began walking toward the exit of the chamber. Nobody tried to stop her. They were all too confused by her strange behavior. You have made a terrible mistake, Elena called back as she reached the door. For 50 years you thought you knew what humans were. You thought we were weak. You thought we were primitive. You thought we were afraid. She paused at the doorway and looked back one last time. You were wrong about everything, she said, and now you're going to find out why that was the last mistake your council will ever make. Elena walked out of the chamber, leaving behind hundreds of aliens who were suddenly not sure they had made the right choice. In the silence that followed, only one sound could be heard. The soft beeping of communication devices as the first reports came in from across the galaxy. Human ships were moving. Lots of them. And they were heading for every major council world at the same time. The war had begun, but it was not going to be the war the Galaxy Council expected. 50 years earlier, a young Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of humanity's first starship. She watched through the window as strange alien vessels approached Earth. The ships were beautiful, made of materials that seemed to bend light around them. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries, first contact with alien life. The dreams died quickly. The aliens called themselves the Galaxy Council. They said they represented 800 different species from across the stars. They had come to welcome humanity into galactic civilization. But their welcome came with rules. Many rules. Humans could not leave their home system without permission. Humans could not build certain types of weapons. Humans could not change their own bodies with technology. Humans could not make decisions about their own future without council approval. You are a young species, the alien ambassador had explained to Elena and the other human diplomats. You need guidance. You need to be protected from yourselves. Elena remembered how the human leaders had argued. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to accept the alien rules. In the end, they chose to appear to submit. But Elena and a few others had a different plan. If the aliens wanted humans to act weak and primitive, then that's exactly what humans would do. But while they acted weak, they would prepare for the day when the act could end. Director Sarah Chen ran the Terran Strategic Initiative from a bunker hidden deep under the Rocky Mountains. The TSI officially existed to study alien technology and culture. In reality, it was humanity's secret war machine. "Show me the latest reports," Sarah said to her assistant as she entered the control room. The walls of the room lit up with star maps, ship designs, and alien biological data. For 50 years, the TSI had been gathering information about every species in the Galaxy Council. They knew which aliens were strong and which were weak. They knew how alien weapons worked and how to defend against them. Most importantly, they knew how to build weapons that aliens could not defend against. "The industrial platforms around Jupiter are now complete," the assistant reported. "We can build 500 ships per month without the Council detecting anything." Sarah nodded. The aliens watched Earth carefully, but they ignored the outer parts of the solar system. They thought humans were too primitive to build anything important so far from their home planet. They were wrong. "What about the seed ships?" Sarah asked. "The last batch launched 6 months ago," came the reply. "We now have hidden bases in 200 star systems. The aliens don't even know those systems exist." While the Galaxy Council watched Earth, unmanned human ships had been quietly spreading across the galaxy for decades. They traveled slowly, below the speed that alien sensors could detect. When they reached empty star systems, they built hidden bases using materials from asteroids and dead planets. Sarah smiled as she looked at the secret map of human expansion. Red dots marked Council worlds. Blue dots marked human bases. There were far more blue dots than red ones. "Any word from Elena?" Sarah asked. "She reports that Council military readiness is at normal levels," the assistant said. "They suspect nothing." Elena had volunteered for the most dangerous job in human history. While other humans stayed safely on Earth, she lived among the aliens. For 30 years, she had attended their meetings, learned their languages, and gained their trust. All while gathering information about their weaknesses. The aliens thought Elena was a typical human diplomat, polite, respectful, and slightly afraid of alien technology. They had no idea she was a former military strategist who could plan battles in her head while having tea with alien ambassadors. Elena's apartment on Nexus Prime looked like any other human living space the aliens had seen. Simple furniture, pictures of Earth, books printed on paper instead of stored in computers. The aliens saw this as proof that humans were behind the times. They never suspected that Elena's simple apartment contained some of the most advanced spy equipment humans had ever built. Hidden cameras recorded every alien who visited. Secret computers analyzed alien communication patterns. Tiny devices collected samples of alien technology. Every piece of information went back to Earth, where the TSI studied it and planned how to use it in the coming war. Elena sat at her desk, typing a report that looked like a simple diplomatic summary. In reality, it was a detailed analysis of Zephyrian military capabilities coded in what appeared to be routine paperwork. A soft chime announced a visitor. Elena opened her door to find Ambassador Kethvar, a tall alien with blue skin and 6 eyes. He was one of the more friendly council members, and Elena had spent years earning his trust. "Elena, my friend," Kethvar said in his melodic voice, "I bring good news. The Council has approved Earth's request to build 3 new orbital stations." Elena smiled and thanked him. The aliens thought they were generous by allowing humans to build a few small stations around Earth. They didn't know that humans had already built hundreds of massive military platforms hidden throughout the solar system. However, Kethvar continued, there are some council members who remain concerned about human activities. "What kind of concerns?" Helena asked, though she already knew the answer. "Some report detecting unusual energy signatures from your outer planets," Kethvar explained, "and there have been questions about human ships that seem to disappear from our tracking systems." Elena's expression remained perfectly calm, even though she knew this was important information. The aliens were starting to notice human activities. That meant the secret preparations would have to end soon. "I'm sure it's just normal scientific research," Elena said. "You know how curious humans are about space." Kethvar seemed satisfied with this answer. After he left, Elena immediately sent a coded message to Earth. The message was hidden in what looked like a request for more coffee supplies from Earth. Director Sarah Chen received Elena's warning and called an emergency meeting. The TSI leadership gathered in the secret conference room to discuss what this meant for their plans. "How much longer do we need?" Sarah asked her chief military advisor. 6 months to complete all preparations," General Torres replied. "Maybe 8 if we want to be completely ready." "We might not have that long," Sarah said. "Elena thinks some council members are getting suspicious." The room fell silent as everyone considered their options. For 50 years, they had been building toward this moment. Everything depended on being ready when the time came. "What about forcing their hand?" suggested Admiral Rodriguez. "If we can make them angry enough, they might declare war before they're ready to investigate us properly." Sarah thought about this idea. It was risky, but it might be their only choice. "What did you have in mind?" she asked. "We let them catch us doing something they absolutely cannot ignore," Rodriguez explained. "Something that will make them so angry they'll vote for war immediately." Sarah looked around the room at her advisors. These were some of the smartest people humanity had ever produced. They had spent decades preparing for a war that most humans didn't even know was coming. "Elena will have to stay in place until the very end," Sarah said. "She'll be in extreme danger." "Elena knew the risks when she volunteered," General Torres pointed out. "And she's our best source of intelligence about council decision-making." Sarah made her decision. "Send the signal to our outer system facilities. Begin the final phase of military production. And make sure the aliens can detect some of it." Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime, Elena received another visitor. This time it was Chancellor Vexthal himself. Elena had been expecting this visit. "Ambassador Vasquez," Vexthal said as he entered her apartment. "We need to discuss some disturbing reports about human activities." Elena poured tea for both of them, moving slowly and calmly. "Of course, Chancellor. I'm always happy to help clear up any misunderstandings." Vexthal showed her holographic images of human ships and stations that Council scouts had detected. "These don't look like scientific research to me," he said. Elena studied the images carefully. They showed exactly what the TSI wanted the aliens to see. Just enough military activity to anger the Council, but not enough to reveal the true scope of human preparations. "I'll need to contact Earth for clarification," Elena said, "but I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation." Vexthal's skin began changing colors, a sign that he was becoming angry. "Humans have been testing our patience for decades. This cannot continue." Elena set down her teacup and looked directly at the Chancellor. "What exactly are you saying?" "I'm saying that the Council's patience with humanity is nearly exhausted," Vexthal replied. "If these activities continue, there will be consequences." Elena nodded seriously. "I understand your concerns, Chancellor. I'll make sure Earth receives your message." After Vexthal left, Elena sat alone in her apartment for a long time. Everything was moving toward the moment she had been preparing for her entire adult life. Soon the aliens would make their choice, and when they did, humanity would be ready. She sent one final coded message to Earth. It contained just 2 words. "Almost time." On Earth, Director Sarah Chen read Elena's message and smiled. 50 years of preparation were about to pay off. The Galaxy Council thought they were about to eliminate a troublesome primitive species. They had no idea they were about to face the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Marcus Torres stood in the command center of Fortress Luna, watching the enemy fleet approach on his screens. The Hegemony Coalition had sent 12 of their largest warships to destroy what they thought was a primitive human defense force. Torres had been waiting for this moment for 25 years. As a young officer, he had helped design the secret military base built inside Earth's moon. The aliens had always wondered why humans were so interested in their moon, but they thought it was just scientific curiosity. They were about to learn the truth. "Enemy fleet will enter weapons range in 30 minutes, reported his tactical officer. 12 dreadnoughts, standard Council formation." Torres nodded. The Council always used the same attack patterns. They had been the dominant military force in the galaxy for so long that they had stopped innovating. Their ships were powerful, but their tactics were predictable. "How many ships do we have in position?" Torres asked. 412 vessels ready for combat," came the reply. "All hidden in the asteroid belt and behind Jupiter's moons, just like you ordered." The alien fleet commander probably thought he was facing a few dozen primitive human ships. He had no idea that humanity had been building a secret navy for decades. Torres activated his communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Torres. Execute Operation Revelation." Across the solar system, human warships that had been hiding for years suddenly appeared on every sensor screen. They emerged from behind asteroids, rose from the surface of moons, and dropped their electronic camouflage. Within minutes, the solar system was full of human vessels moving toward the alien fleet. On the bridge of the Hegemony flagship, Commander Zektoth stared at his screens in shock. "This is impossible," he said to his crew. "Our intelligence report said humans had maybe 50 ships total." His tactical officer's voice was shaking. "Sir, I'm counting over 400 human vessels. They're surrounding us." Zektoth had been fighting space battles for 200 years. He had defeated rebels, pirates, and rogue species across the galaxy. But he had never seen anything like this. "Open a channel to the human fleet," he ordered. Torres's face appeared on the alien ship's main screen. He was wearing a simple blue uniform with no decorations or fancy symbols, but his eyes held the confidence of someone who had been planning this battle for decades. "This is Admiral Torres of the Earth Defense Force," he said calmly. "You have 30 seconds to surrender." Zektoth's three heads all spoke at once. "Surrender? Human, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Our ships are more advanced than anything your primitive species could build." Torres smiled. "Are you sure about that?" The human admiral gave a small hand signal to someone off-screen. Suddenly, every human ship in the system powered up weapons that the aliens had never seen before. "What are those?" Zektoth's tactical officer asked. Torres answered the question. "Kinetic weapons. Your council banned them 50 years ago because you were afraid of them. We've spent those 50 years making them better." Zektoth laughed. "Kinetic weapons are primitive. Our energy shields will stop anything you can fire at us. Would you like to test that theory?" Torres asked. The alien commander's pride answered for him. "Fire at will," he ordered his ships. "Show these primitives the power of true galactic civilization." The Hegemony ships opened fire with their energy weapons. Bright beams of concentrated power shot toward the human fleet. But when they hit the human ships, something unexpected happened. The energy beams struck special armor that covered every human vessel. Instead of destroying the ships, the beams were absorbed and converted into electrical power. The human ships actually grew stronger when attacked. "Impossible," Zektoth whispered. Torres watched as his ships absorbed the alien energy attacks. 50 years, he said over the communication channel. 50 years we've been studying your weapons and designing defenses against them. Did you really think we weren't paying attention?" Now it was humanity's turn to attack. The human ships fired their kinetic weapons. Solid metal projectiles, each one the size of a small building, shot through space at incredible speed. Advanced computer systems guided each projectile toward its target with perfect accuracy. The alien ship's energy shields were designed to stop energy beams and plasma bolts. They were useless against solid objects moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The first projectile hit Zektoth's flagship and punched through the hull like it was made of paper. The second hit the ship's main reactor. The third destroyed the command bridge. Across the battlefield, alien ships died in seconds. Their advanced energy weapons and sophisticated shields meant nothing against simple metal bullets fired fast enough and accurately enough to tear through any defense. In less than 10 minutes, the entire Hegemony fleet was destroyed. 12 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy had been turned into floating debris by weapons the Council considered primitive. Torres opened a channel to any surviving aliens. "This message is for the Galaxy Council," he said. "You declared war on humanity thinking we were weak and primitive. You were wrong. We have been preparing for this war for 50 years. We know everything about your ships, your weapons, and your tactics. You know nothing about ours." He paused to let this sink in. "This was just one small human fleet defending our home system. We have larger fleets already moving toward every major Council world. Surrender now, or learn why the Council was right to fear kinetic weapons." Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime, Elena was putting the second part of humanity's plan into action. While the space battle raged around Earth, she was fighting a different kind of war from inside the Council's capital. Elena walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime like she owned the place. For 30 years, she had been just another diplomat that aliens barely noticed. Now she was revealing what she really was, a strategic mastermind who had been planning this day since her first week on the station. "Activate Operation Trojan Horse," she said into her communication device. All across the galaxy, humans who had been living and working in alien space for decades received Elena's signal. They were not diplomats or traitors like the aliens thought. They were soldiers and saboteurs who had been waiting years for this moment. On the industrial world of Vextaran, human trade representative Michael Chen stood up from his desk and walked to the planet's main power grid control center. He had been the grid supervisor for 10 years. The aliens trusted him completely. Chen entered his access codes and began shutting down power to every major city on the planet. Within hours, the industrial world that supplied weapons to 12 different council species was dark and defenseless. On the communication hub world of Kethmira, human cultural attachment, Sarah Kim activated a virus she had been secretly installing in the planet's information networks for 5 years. Suddenly, the world that coordinated communication between 300 species could no longer send or receive messages. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. Humans who had seemed harmless for decades suddenly revealed themselves to be perfectly positioned to cripple the Council's most important infrastructure. Elena herself walked into the central command center of Nexus Prime. The alien guards knew her well. She had been coming here for diplomatic meetings for years. They trusted her completely. "I need to send an emergency message to Earth," she told the communication officer. The officer, a friendly luminary who glowed soft blue, helped Elena access the station's main communication array. "Of course, Ambassador. I hope your people are safe from this terrible war." Elena smiled at the alien's concern. "Don't worry. My people are going to be just fine." She began typing on the communication console. The luminary officer thought Elena was sending a message to Earth asking for help. In reality, Elena was taking control of the entire Council communication network. Elena's fingers flew across the alien controls. She had memorized every system on Nexus Prime during her years there. She knew exactly how to access every database, every security system, every automated defense. Within minutes, she had complete control of the station that coordinated the entire Galaxy Council. Elena activated the station's emergency broadcast system. Her face appeared on screens throughout Nexus Prime and on every major world in Council space. "Attention, Galaxy Council," she said. "This is Ambassador Elena Vasquez of Earth. The war you declared has begun, but it is not the war you expected." Aliens across the galaxy watched in shock as Elena revealed the truth about humanity's capabilities. "For 50 years, you have treated humans as a primitive species that needed your guidance," Elena continued. "During those 50 years, we have been studying you. We know your weaknesses. We know your fears. We know how to defeat you." She showed images of the destroyed hegemony fleet, of darkened council worlds, of human ships appearing in dozens of star systems simultaneously. "Your fleets are being destroyed," Elena announced. "Your infrastructure is being disabled. Your communication networks are under our control. This is not happening because we are lucky. This is happening because we planned it." Elena's image was being broadcast to every alien leader in the galaxy. She wanted them all to understand exactly what was happening. "You made a simple mistake," she said. "You thought that because we appeared weak, we actually were weak. You thought that because we seemed primitive, we couldn't learn. You thought that because you were in charge, you would always be in charge." Elena's expression grew harder. "You were wrong about General Patricia Okafor studied the tactical display in front of her. The Battle of Kepler's Gate would be the most important military operation in human history. If her plan worked, the galaxy would never be the same. Kepler's Gate was the central hub of the Council's transportation network. Every major shipping route, military supply line, and communication channel passed through this massive space station. It was protected by 300 of the Council's most powerful warships and considered impossible to attack. The Council had rushed every available ship to defend the gate after hearing about human victories across the galaxy. They were confident that no force could break through their defenses at such a strategic location. They were about to learn another lesson about human military thinking. "General, we have 89 ships ready for the assault," reported her tactical officer. "The enemy has 300 ships in defensive positions around the gate." Okafor nodded. The numbers looked impossible, but numbers had never been the most important factor in human military planning. "Are our special forces teams in position?" "Yes, ma'am. Teams Alpha through Delta have been hiding in the asteroid fields around the gate for 6 months. They're ready to move on your signal." The Council thought Kepler's Gate was perfectly defended because they only looked at the big picture. They counted ships and weapons and energy signatures. They never thought to look for small groups of humans hiding in places where no one was supposed to be able to survive. Okafor opened a communication channel to her fleet. All ships, this is General Okafor. Today we end the Council's ability to coordinate their resistance. Remember, our target is not their ships. Our target is the gate itself. Across space, human ship captains prepared for what looked like a suicide mission. They were outnumbered more than 3-1, attacking the most heavily defended position in the galaxy. But they trusted their general. Patricia Okafor had never lost a battle in 30 years of military service. If she said this plan would work, then it would work. The human fleet moved toward Kepler's gate in a formation that looked desperate and disorganized. Council military analysts watching the approach felt confident that this would be the battle where human expansion finally stopped. Admiral Texon commanded the defense of Kepler's gate from his massive flagship. He had been fighting wars for 150 years and had never been defeated. Looking at the small human force approaching his position, he felt almost sorry for them. Humans, he said to his communication officer. They must be running out of ships if this is all they can send against us. The human fleet continued its approach, staying in a tight group that made them easy targets for concentrated fire. Every experienced military commander watching could see that the humans were making basic tactical mistakes. Open fire when they reach optimal range, Thexon ordered. This will be over quickly. The Council ships waited until the humans were close enough to destroy with maximum efficiency. Then 300 warships opened fire at once, filling space with enough energy to destroy a small planet. The human ships scattered immediately, breaking their tight formation and spreading out across the battlefield. Their strange armor absorbed most of the energy attacks, but several human vessels took damage and began falling back. Pursue them, Thexon ordered. Don't let any escape to report our defenses to other human forces. The Council fleet moved forward, chasing the retreating humans away from Kepler's gate. It looked like a complete victory for the Council forces. That was exactly what General Okafor wanted them to think. Phase 1 complete, she reported to her command staff. The enemy has moved away from the gate to pursue our decoy force. Initiate Phase 2. Hidden in the asteroid fields around Kepler's gate, 4 small teams of human soldiers received Okafor's signal. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were specialists who had trained for this exact mission for 5 years. Team Alpha moved first. Their target was the gate's main power distribution center. For months, they had been studying the station's energy systems from their hidden position. They knew exactly where to strike. The team's leader, Captain Rodriguez, guided his soldiers through the asteroid field toward the massive station. Their small ship was designed to look like space debris on enemy sensors. Remember, Rodriguez told his team over their helmet radios, we need to disable the power grid without destroying it completely. The goal is to make them helpless, not to blow up the entire station. The soldiers reached the station's outer hull and began cutting through with tools that made no sound and left no energy signature. Within minutes, they were inside the station's power distribution center. Council technicians working in the center never saw them coming. The humans moved silently through the facility, placing small devices at key points in the power grid. Each device was designed to overload specific systems at exactly the right moment. Team Beta had a different target, the station's exotic matter generators. These machines created the special energy fields that allowed ships to travel faster than light. Without them, the gate would become just another space station. Team Beta's leader, Lieutenant Chen, had studied exotic matter technology for 10 years. She knew more about how the generators worked than most of the aliens who built them. Plant the charges here, here, and here, she instructed her soldiers, pointing to specific components. When these blow, the entire faster-than-light network will collapse. Teams Charlie and Delta had the most dangerous jobs. They were targeting the station's communication arrays and defensive weapon systems. If they were discovered too early, the entire mission would fail. But human special forces had been training for missions like this since the day the Council first arrived at Earth. They moved through the alien station like ghosts, disabling systems and planting explosives without being detected. Meanwhile, the main human fleet continued its fake retreat, drawing more and more Council ships away from the gate. General Okafor watched the tactical display and waited for the perfect moment. All teams report ready, her communication officer announced. Okafor looked at the positions of the enemy fleet. Most of the council ships were now far from the gate, chasing her decoy force. The time had come. Execute Phase 3, she ordered. All 4 Special Forces teams activated their devices simultaneously. Across Kepler's gate, critical systems began failing in a carefully planned sequence. First, the power grid overloaded, cutting electricity to half the station. Emergency lights came on, but they provided only dim illumination. Second, the exotic matter generators exploded in a series of controlled blasts that sent exotic energy cascading through the station's superstructure. The energy fields that allowed faster-than-light travel collapsed completely. Third, the communication arrays went dead, cutting off the station's ability to coordinate with council forces across the galaxy. Finally, the defensive weapons powered down, leaving the massive station completely helpless. Admiral Thexon received emergency signals from Kepler's gate and immediately understood what had happened. "Return to the gate immediately," he ordered his fleet. "We've been tricked, but it was too late." As the council ships raced back toward the station, General Okafor's real attack force emerged from hyperspace. These were not the same ships that had made the diversionary attack. This was humanity's main battle fleet, 400 of their most advanced warships, armed with the most powerful kinetic weapons ever built. The human fleet surrounded Kepler's gate and opened fire. Their targets were not the station itself, but the exotic matter storage facilities that powered the entire faster-than-light network. Massive kinetic projectiles, guided by computers that had calculated their trajectories for months, struck the storage facilities with perfect precision. The exotic matter containment fields failed, releasing energy that had been compressed into incredibly small spaces. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. When the light faded, Kepler's gate was gone. With it went the Council's ability to coordinate military movements across the galaxy. Hundreds of Council fleets found themselves stranded in distant star systems, unable to travel to other battles or communicate with their commanders. General Okafor opened a communication channel that broadcast across the entire galaxy. "This is General Patricia Okafor of the Human Defense Force. The Council's transportation network has been destroyed. Your fleets are now isolated and cut off from support." She paused to let this information reach every alien commander still fighting human forces. "You have one choice remaining," Okafor continued. "Surrender now, or be destroyed piece by piece as we hunt down your isolated fleets." On Nexus Prime, Elena watched the broadcast from her private quarters. She had been coordinating with human forces across the galaxy, helping to identify targets and plan attacks. Now the first phase of the war was nearly complete. Elena's communication device buzzed with an incoming message from Earth. It was Director Sarah Chen. "Elena, we need you to begin the next phase," Sarah's voice said. "The military situation is under control, but we need to start thinking about what comes after the fighting ends." Elena understood. Destroying the Council's military power was only the first step. The real challenge would be building something better to replace it. "What do you need me to do?" Elena Vasquez stood in the same chamber where the Galaxy Council had declared war on humanity 6 months earlier. But everything had changed. Many seats were empty now. Some belonged to species that had fought to the end and been eliminated. Others belonged to species that had retreated to their home worlds and sealed their borders, hoping humanity would leave them alone. The aliens who remained sat quietly, their earlier arrogance replaced by fear and uncertainty. They had learned what happened to species that underestimated humanity. Elena wore a different uniform now. Instead of the simple black diplomatic outfit she had worn for 30 years, she wore the blue and silver of the new Galactic Federation. The change in clothing represented something much more important, the end of one age and the beginning of another. Chancellor Vexthul was gone. His species, the Hegemony Coalition, had refused to surrender even after their main fleet was destroyed. Human forces had been forced to eliminate their military capabilities completely. Vexthul himself had died when his command ship was destroyed during the final battle for the Coalition's homeworld. In his place sat Acting Chancellor Zephyra, a nervous luminary who glowed with pale, frightened light. She had been chosen to represent what remained of the Council because she was one of the few high-ranking officials who had survived the war. The emergency session of the Galaxy Council will come to order, Zephyra announced, her voice shaking slightly. Elena looked around the chamber at the aliens who had once sat in judgment of humanity. There were less than 200 species represented now, down from the original 847. The others had either been destroyed, surrendered individually to human forces, or simply disappeared into the depths of space. We are here to discuss the human terms for ending hostilities, Zephyra continued. Elena stood and walked to the center of the chamber, to the same spot where she had been condemned 6 months earlier. But now she was not a defendant. She was the representative of the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. The terms are simple, Elena said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. The Galaxy Council will be dissolved immediately. All species claiming council authority will renounce that authority. The new Galactic Federation will be established with equal representation for all member species. Murmurs of dismay came from various sections of the chamber. Some aliens still hoped to negotiate better terms. Elena continued speaking. Any species that wishes to join the Federation will be welcome, provided they agree to the basic principles of peaceful coexistence and mutual respect. Any species that chooses to remain independent will be left alone, as long as they do not threaten Federation members. An alien from the Krasnok section stood up. Its chitinous armor was cracked and scarred, evidence of battles with human forces. What about species that refuse both options? It asked. Elena's expression did not change. Those species will be eliminated. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew Elena was not making threats. She was stating facts. Humanity had demonstrated their ability to destroy any military force that opposed them. You want us to give up 10,000 years of galactic civilization, protested an alien that looked like a floating crystal. The Council has maintained peace and order since before most species achieved spaceflight. Elena shook her head. The Council maintained control, not peace. You kept other species weak and dependent to preserve your own power. That is not civilization. That is tyranny. She activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy as it had been under Council rule. Different colors marked different levels of development and freedom. Under Council rule, advanced species were forbidden to share technology with less developed ones, Elena explained. Younger species were kept primitive to make them easier to control. Military research was restricted to prevent anyone from challenging Council authority. The display changed to show Elena's vision for the new Federation. Under the Federation, species will be free to develop their own technology, explore their own territories, and make their own choices about their future. The only restriction is that they cannot attack or oppress other species. Ambassador Kethvar, Elena's old friend, stood up slowly. His blue skin had lost some of its vibrant color during the war. Elena, he said, surely you understand that some species need guidance. Not everyone is ready for complete freedom. Elena looked at him with something approaching sadness. Kethvar, that is exactly the kind of thinking that made this war necessary. Who decides which species are ready for freedom? Who gave the Council the right to make that choice? She gestured around the chamber. For 50 years you told humans we were too primitive for full membership in galactic civilization. You were wrong. How many other species have you underestimated? How much potential have you wasted by keeping them under Council control? Elena activated another display showing technological advancement over the past 50 years. In the time since humans were declared a probationary species, we developed faster-than-light travel, kinetic weapons that can defeat energy shields, and stealth technology that fooled your best sensors. We did this while you were watching us and trying to limit our development. She paused to let this sink in. Imagine what we could have accomplished if we had been free to work with other species from the beginning. Imagine what all species could accomplish if they were free to pursue their own potential. More aliens began standing to speak, but Elena held up her hand for silence. The time for debate is over, she announced. Humanity spent 50 years listening to Council debates while being treated as inferior. We will not waste more time arguing with species that still believe they have the right to rule others. Elena walked toward the exit of the chamber, just as she had 6 months earlier, but this time her departure meant something very different. You have 1 week to make your choice, she called back to the assembled aliens. Join the Federation as equals, remain independent in your own territory, or face the consequences of continued resistance. Elena left the chamber and walked to the docking bay, where her ship waited. It was not the simple diplomatic vessel she had used for decades. This was a new ship, built using the best technology from both human and allied alien sources. Admiral Torres was waiting for her at the ship's entrance. "How did they react?" he asked. "About as expected," Elena replied. "Some are ready to accept the new reality. Others are still hoping they can find a way back to the old system." Torres nodded. "We've received surrender requests from 15 more species in the past hour. That brings the total to 200 species ready to join the Federation." Elena smiled. "And the holdouts?" 37 species are still refusing to surrender or negotiate," Torres reported. "Our intelligence suggests they're trying to form some kind of resistance alliance." Elena considered this information. "Let them try. They'll learn the same lesson everyone else has learned. Humanity doesn't make empty threats." The two humans boarded the ship and headed toward Earth. Elena had been away from her home planet for 30 years, living among aliens and gathering intelligence for the war. Now that the war was ending, she was finally going home. As their ship left Nexus Prime, Elena looked back at the station that had been the center of galactic government for thousands of years. Soon it would be converted into the first Federation headquarters, where representatives from hundreds of species would work together as equals. The journey to Earth took 3 days. When they arrived, Elena was amazed by what she saw. The solar system that had once been carefully hidden from alien observers was now a bustling center of activity. Ships from dozens of species traveled between Earth and the human colonies. Aliens and humans worked together on massive construction projects. The asteroid belt, once empty except for secret human bases, was now filled with mining operations and industrial platforms run by joint human-alien crews. Elena's ship landed at the new Federation headquarters in Geneva. Director Sarah Chen was waiting for her with a group of human and alien officials. "Welcome home," Sarah said as Elena stepped off the ship. Elena looked around at the mixture of humans and aliens working together in the headquarters building. "It's hard to believe this is real," she said. 6 months ago, the Council thought we were primitives who needed their guidance." Sarah smiled. 6 months ago, we were pretending to be primitives. Now we're showing the galaxy what we really are." Elena walked through the headquarters building, observing the new reality she had helped create. In one room, human engineers worked with Zephyrian scientists to design new types of starships. In another, former Council military officers shared tactical knowledge with human strategists. The most important room was the Federation Assembly Hall. Here, representatives from 200 species met to discuss policies that would affect the entire galaxy. Unlike the old Council chamber, there were no elevated seats or special sections. Every species sat at the same level, with equal voting rights. Elena entered the assembly hall just as a session was beginning. The topic being discussed was the exploration of previously forbidden regions of the galaxy. Under Council rule, certain areas had been declared off-limits to prevent younger species from discovering dangerous technologies or encountering hostile aliens. The Federation believes that knowledge and exploration should not be restricted.